Yashodanandana Bhaja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kuja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kuja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Bhaja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yashodanandana Bhaja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajak Acharya Ashtotera Srimad, His Divine Grace, Abhay Charanavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajak Acharya Ashtotera Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki, Shri Mayapur Dham Ki, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki, Ganga Mai Ki, Jamuna Mai Ki, Bhakti Devi Tulsi Maharani Ki, Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki, Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki, Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ki, Shri Shri Gaurnitai Ki, Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Ki, Shri Nrsingadev Ki, Shri Shalagram Vishnush Ki, Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki, Shri Gopal Ki Ji Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru, Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devyam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Madhirayat Nastaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you all so much for coming. It's from the Bhagavatam class. Krishna thanks you, and I thank you. So we're at Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 21, instructions by Maharaj Prithu. We are going from text 16 through text 21. And so we're limited on time. I'm going to read the Sanskrit and then the translations, and then we'll do 21 together briefly, and then we'll do the purport and give class. Text 16. Vyuda Vaksha Brachchronir Vali Valgu Dalodara Avarta Nabir Ojasvi Kanchanoru Udagrapat. Translation. The chest of Maharaj Prithu was very broad, his waist was very thick, and his abdomen, wrinkled by lines of skin, resembled in construction a leaf of a banyan tree. His navel was coiled and deep, his thighs were of a golden hue, and his instep was arched. Shukshma Vakrasita Shningda Murdagja Kambukandara Mahadane Dukulagre Paridyapo Vyacha. The black, slick hair on his head was very fine and curly, and his neck, like a conch shell, was decorated with auspicious lines. He wore a very valuable dhoti, and there was a nice wrapper on the upper part of his body. Dhyanjit ashena gatra shrir niyame nyatsya bhushanaha Krishna jina dara shriman kushapani kritochitaha. As Maharaj Prithu was being initiated to perform the sacrifice, he had to leave aside his valuable dress, and therefore his natural bodily beauty was visible. It was very pleasing to see him put on a black deerskin and wear a ring of kusha grass on his finger, for this increased the natural beauty of his body. It appears that Maharaj Prithu observed all the regulative principles before he performed the sacrifice. Shishirashningnata raksha samakshatta samantata Uchivanidam urvisha sada samharshaya niva. Just to encourage the members of the assembly and enhance their pleasure, King Prithu glanced over them with eyes that seemed like stars in a sky wet with dew. He then spoke to them in a great voice. Such is the greatest poetry ever written in Srimad Bhagavatam we're hearing. And it's also transcendental. It's also describing the Lord. And like when you hear it in Sanskrit, it's actually so beautiful. Charu Chitra Padam Shakshnam Mristam Gurunam Aviklavam Sarvesham Upakarartam Tada Anuvandaniva. Maharaj Prithu's speech was very beautiful, full of metaphorical language, clearly understandable and very pleasing to hear. His words were all grave and certain. It appears that when he spoke, he expressed his personal realization of the absolute truth in order to benefit all who were present. Short purport. Maharaj Prithu was beautiful in his external bodily features, and his speech was also very glorious in all respects. His words, which were nicely composed in highly metaphorical, ornamental language, were pleasing to hear and were not only mellow but also very clearly understandable and without doubt or ambiguity. Okay, we'll do this one responsively. Rajo Vacha Sabya Shrinuta Bhadram Va Sarvoya Ihagata Satsu Jigyashubir Dharmam Avedyam Swamanisitam Shabya Shrinuta Bhadram Va Sarvoya Ihagata Satsu Jigyasubir Dharmam Avedyam Swamanisitam Sabya Shrinuta Bhadram Va Sarvoya Ihagata Satsu Jigyasubir Dharmam Avedyam Swamanisitam. You one or two? Raju Vacha Satsoji Gasubir Dharmam Avedyam Swamanisitam. Word for word. Raju Vacha. The king began to speak. Sabyaha, addressing the ladies and gentlemen. Shrinuta, kindly hear. Badram, good fortune. Vaha, your. Sarvaha, all great souls. Ye, who, Iha, here. Agataha, present. Satsu, under the noblemen. Jigya Shubhi, one who is inquisitive. Dharmam, religious principle, sorry. Avedyam, must be present. Swamadhishatam, concluded by someone. Translation. King Prithu said, O gentle members of the assembly, may all good fortune be upon you. May all of you great souls who have come to attend this meeting kindly hear my prayer attentively. A person who is actually inquisitive must be present, must present his decision before an assembly of noble souls. Purport. In this verse, the word sadhavaha, all great souls, is very significant. When a person is very great and famous, many unscrupulous persons become his enemies, for envy is the nature of the materialists. In any meeting, there are different classes of men, and therefore it is to be supposed that because Prithu Maharaj was very great, he must have had several enemies present in the assembly, although they could not express themselves. Maharaj Prithu, however, was concerned with persons who were gentle, and therefore he addressed all the honest persons, not caring for the envious. He did not, however, present himself as a royal authority, empowered to command everyone, for he wanted to present his statement in a humble submission before the assembly of great sages and saintly persons. As a great king of the entire world, he could have given them orders, but he was so humble, meek, and honest that he presented his statement for approval in order to clarify his mature decision. Everyone within this material world is conditioned by the modes of material nature, and therefore has four defects. But although Priti Maharaj was above all these, still, like an ordinary conditioned soul, he presented his statements to great souls, sages, and saintly persons present there. Om Jnana Tamarandhyasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishvari Vishubhana Shruti Devi Paramami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarabhyasta Kripa Sindhibhyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Prachadane Nirvashesha Shunyavadi Pashkachade Kacharane Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so this is a very nice opportunity that is arising in our lives to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam and to learn everything from the Srimad Bhagavatam and how to counteract all of our challenges in life. The Bhagavatam says, Krishne swadamo pagate dharma gyana dibisaha kalu nasta drishamesha paranarko dunodita. This Bhagavat Purana is brilliant like the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied with knowledge and religion. This Bhagavat Purana will give light to those who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of the age of Kali. So we have that opportunity to have become enlightened out of our Kali Yuga stupor because of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and understanding how every role in society, how to act like a pure devotee in every circumstance. That's what the Srimad Bhagavatam is explaining to us, is how to become and execute our mission of life as a pure devotee in all times, all places, in all circumstances. So if we take seriously this message of Srimad Bhagavatam, then we can become pure devotees, which is our actual goal. When I went to Mayapur and studied Bhakti Shastri and getting the association of the nice devotees there, I really learned how to tune in classes, at least I think, on what is the actual goal of the Bhagavatam class. What is the goal of chanting Hare Krishna? What is the goal of studying the scriptures? What is the goal of our preaching? And we are trying to make people pure devotees. We're trying to help each other become pure devotees. And our goal is pure devotional service. Anya bilashita shunyam jnanam karmanyanavritam anukuyena krishnana shilanam bhaktirutama. That's our goal. Devotional service that's free of karma and gyan, speculation and fruitive activity. Devotional service that's pleasing to Krishna, done with affection to Krishna, and following the footsteps of the previous acharyas. That is our goal, and that's what we're trying to do with this Bhagavatam class every single day. We can actually get sidetracked on so many different moral instructions within the Bhagavatam, as if that was the real goal of what we're doing. That's a fallacy. That's mundane morality. And so the Bhagavatam is superior to mundane morality, which is something people become very sentimentally attached to, as if that were the goal of spirituality. But the goal of spirituality is love for Krishna. And so therefore it's said that the guru is sometimes hard like a thunderbolt and sometimes soft like a rose. So most people are happy to see the soft like a rose side. But when they see the thunderbolt, they usually feel very uncomfortable. So spiritualists can be like that. It can be extremely heavy or harsh sometimes, but does that mean that they are not good people? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was so potent that the Mayavadis would cross the road if they saw him coming. And he would chastise them. So, actually one of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's last words were, I have upset a lot of people because I preached very hard. But they will, they should know that it was for their benefit. So they called him the Singha Guru, and he had a chopping technique. He said he would chop. So devotional service is transcendental to mundane morality. And that is our goal, to really please Krishna. What pleases Krishna? So what we're seeing in this beautiful opportunity that Krishna has presented us with today is, what is holy leadership? What does it look like to be a holy leader, to be a divinely empowered leader? So when I was in school, I was required to take a class called leadership. Every freshman for a long time in Ray High School was required to take a leadership class that was taught by the master sergeant for the ROTC. And this was like a seriously scary guy. I mean, this guy was like, he was like an ROTC sergeant, but he had been in the war, and he carried himself with immense authority. I remember going into that class and being kind of nervous, like, man, this is the master sergeant. He's scary. And he had just so much intimidation, potency. And my friend started hugging me when he walked in the room, he was scared. He was that was scary. I remember, he's from Alabama, or he wasn't from Alabama, I think he was from Arizona, but he lived in Alabama, and his wife was from Alabama. He spoke real heavy like that. Remember, he came in the room and he said, the different types of leadership. One of them is authoritarian. This is an authoritarian leadership. So he's just really heavy. But there are different types of leadership. And some leadership in basic is based on fear, and some leadership is based on love. And so Leadership based on love is 1,000,000 times more powerful than leadership based on fear. So you see that Maharaj Prithu is demonstrating this love-based leadership because of his God consciousness. So there's some nice points that are being mentioned in the previous verses, just to briefly mention them, is that Maharaj Prithu is a beautiful description of his beautiful attributes. He's very beautiful. Random Nepali hair. Some very, very beautiful personality. He's so gorgeous. You can imagine they're saying he has thin curly hair, fine curly hair, beautiful neck like a conch shell. He's got lines on his navel. He's got these beautiful personality traits. And he is expressing, his external is expressing his internal position as a pure devotee. So we see that bodily features are all a result of karma. It said that if someone is very beautiful, that's a result of good karma, just like Lavanga was speaking of yesterday. Although someone could be very externally beautiful, but be very ugly because of their consciousness. And sometimes you see that there's some person that's extremely physically beautiful. It would be. But for someone who's a little bit spiritually advanced, they can just see they're not attracted to that at all. It's just ugly because their internal is not beautiful. So I thought I'd open it up a little bit and ask, why was Maharaj Prithu a great leader? What made Maharaj Prithu a great leader? And I'm not asking for like philosophical answers, like, he was inspiring people in devotional service. I want some practical things that would apply to anybody. Why was Maharaj Prithu a good leader? You said example, that was nice. Yeah, okay.
Really cared about his students' well-being.
Yeah.
Also, in this verse, we can see that he's consulting the great souls.
Oh, nice. He consulted higher souls.
Very conscientious.
Yeah. Nice. All good answers. And I think Lolita kind of got to what I was thinking, is that Maharaj Prithu was a servant, first and foremost. And that's the quintessential aspect of spiritual leadership and Krishna conscious leadership. Because anybody can be Krishna conscious, but not everybody can be a Krishna conscious leader. Just like not everybody can be a perfect pujari or play mridanga perfectly. Everybody has different talents. So Maharaj Prithu was demonstrating pure leadership in Krishna consciousness. And so he was a great leader because he was genuinely leading out of care and compassion for those who were following him. And so that is something that's strongly forgotten in this age. Strongly forgotten. There is such prestige in being the captain of the football team, being the quarterback, being the first chair in band of your instrument, being the drum major. But many probably don't even know what a drum major is. It's a marching band thing that the student who is exceptional for 4 years of marching band, he can become the drum major, and that's the person who conducts and directs the marching band as a student. I mean, of course, the band director is seeing everything, but the drum major is, the leader. And I was almost drum major, but we switched teachers, and that my last band teacher, she didn't like me at all, so she put a junior person as the drum major. Very, very big hit to my false ego. Band is a lot of false ego, but yeah. So, but there's this sense of actually becoming a leader gives me prestige. It gives me a bigger paycheck. It gives me so many different opportunities, more fame, profit, adoration, distinction. And you ask kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it's a common thing to say, are you going to be the president? Yeah, the president, that's a really high position, and that's as high as it gets, right? But people really fail to explain, or I was never really taught that the president is meant to serve. Kind of think of the president like he's the king, that's the top boss, and that's awesome place to be. But it's actually a service. So that's misunderstood in this age, that leadership is actually for service. So I understand that Maharaj Prithu was a great leader because all of his citizens were satisfied by his ruling. They were all happy. He was able to please all of those who were underneath him. And why was that? Because he was pleasing Krishna. So one can't actually be a real leader and satisfy everybody unless he first becomes a devotee of the Lord. That's the primary qualification for actual leadership, is one must first off work for God, because Krishna is the real leader of all living beings. What is that verse? I forgot the Sanskrit. He's the eternal of all, he's the supreme eternal of all other eternals, it's described. So Krishna is the real leader. And he's got it. I was expecting Deer to come in because Deer always quotes that verse. Yeah. That's the verse. I was literally waiting for Deer to come in because I knew this is one of his verses he quotes a lot. So, yeah. Krishna is the supreme eternal of all other eternals. He's the leader of all living entities. So when someone's going to lead, they have to first off work for God. And you see that those leaders and those people who have inspired people through history, they all have that qualification. Jesus Christ was working for God, the Son of God, leading people in God consciousness, and still he has so many followers growing. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prahlad Maharaj, you go back more and more ancient. Hanuman, still worshipped. So long Hanuman's been worshipped. We just think about someone like Hanuman. Hanuman was on Arjuna's flag. So that means Hanuman was a legend even in the time of Krishna and Arjuna. He was so great. So that's how long Hanuman has been seen as a great personality, because he was a servant of God. And therefore, many people follow his example of wonderful qualities, but ultimately service to God. So is this it's a psychological fact that when one thinks of themselves, to the degree that one is thinking of themselves, they're unhappy. That's just psychological fact. Unhappiness is so deeply connected to thinking of the self. One is meditating on themselves all the time, they become very unhappy and become depressed. And we see that. One of the people I know very well talks about themselves more than anybody I've ever met. They're very depressed. They struggle with depression hard because they're always thinking of themselves. Whereas the devotee actually doesn't like to think of himself. He likes to think of Krishna. He likes to think of how to benefit others, how to deliver others in Krishna consciousness. So there's a story. Indrajuna Maharaj tells it, and I actually tried to find it so I can tell it better. But I know the gist of it, also about Hanuman. How when Hanuman was captured by Ravana before he lit his tail on fire, and he proceeded to burn all of Lanka to the ground. Ravana asked him, "What is your name?" So Ravana actually admired Hanuman for being such a great warrior. And Hanuman was actually taken aback by being asked, "What is my name?" Because Hanuman hardly ever thought of himself. He never thought of himself. He only thought of Lord Ram. And so actually, Ravana was thinking, he actually told him, "You must be such a great warrior. You must be a great king, a great Kshatriya." And, because he had so much power and he could have done so much with that power. He could have conquered so many lands with that immense power. And so Ravana admired that. But Hanuman said, "I am nothing but a servant of Lord Ram." And so Ravana became disgusted. He was disgusted by that. He said, I'm nothing but a servant of Lord Ram. Here I am thinking you're some great warrior and you tell me you're a servant. So he was disgusted by that position. But actually the servant is the highest goal. So yeah. So we have to think of others, think of the others' welfare, think of the other people's welfare, think of Krishna and how to serve Krishna. And in that way we become happy. And when you're happy, you're actually a lot more inspiring. It's a lot more it's a lot more inspiring to serve under someone who is happy, someone who is obviously competent in their service. So I was speaking with Vyasaki once, and I asked him, I said, something along the lines of like, sometimes it's hard, sometimes we struggle, Krishna consciousness, struggle to do so many different things, our mind or whatever. And he said, everything becomes so easy later on because you become so blissful. And when you're blissful, everything seems very easy because you're feeling bliss. So in that way, the devotee should become blissful by practicing Krishna consciousness. So, yeah. Jai, confirmed by the car. I can be very, get that car out of here. So, yeah. But the point is that Maharaj Prithu, it's described that, because he was a great leader and because he was very exalted and because he was so powerful and expert and was filled with so many good qualities that many were envious of him. And, Srila Prabhupada, he did these purports based off of the purports of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and different devotees, but a lot of the Bhagavatam purports are focused on Vishwanath. And so sometimes if you read some of Vishwanath's actual purports, you can kind of hear what would be like Vishwanath. I'm speculating or I'm guessing, but it's said how, Prabhupada explains how it could be understood that there were many people envious of him in the assembly. It sounds like something Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur would elaborate on. It doesn't say that there were envious people in here, but Prabhupada saying it could be understood. So Prabhupada explains that Maharaj Prithu was speaking to the gentle and to the elevated, and he was ignoring the envious. So that's also a symptom of someone who's a serious leader and devotee. So the Nectar of Instruction explains that the neophyte devotee or the new devotee, he only sees Krishna in the deity and in the spiritual master. Otherwise, he kind of ignores the devotees and doesn't associate with them, doesn't understand how to associate with them. Once when I was in Mayapur, one of my highly advanced teachers, and these guys were like superhumans, he had said, if one knows how to deal with devotees in all circumstances, that it should be understood that person is on the Madhyam platform and knows how to really please and keep devotees nicely. So the second class devotee, it's described that what does he do to the envious? He avoids, he ignores the envious, he befriends the devotees, he serves the great souls, and he loves the Lord, serves the Lord. And then the Uttamadhikari, the highest class devotee, he sees everybody as a servant of God. Because everybody's serving God, whether they're serving Maya or they're serving Krishna. But the difference is that no one can be a leader or a preacher unless that person comes down to the Madhyam level. So even Uttamadhikaris like Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, they came down to the level of Madhyam just to preach. Of course, they're Uttamadhikaris, they're Mahabhagavats, but they come down to the level of discriminating to preach Krishna consciousness. So anytime you're in a leadership position, that requires this discrimination. And so learning proper discrimination is an extremely beneficial aspect of our Krishna consciousness. How to discriminate between what is favorable for my Krishna consciousness and for the Krishna consciousness of those I'm leading, and what is unfavorable for my Krishna consciousness and for the Krishna consciousness of those I'm leading. That's an extremely important point. I believe it's the Bhakti Ratnakara by Narahari Das Thakur, where it describes that unintelligent devotees want to see everybody as equal, which is natural. But those who are more of higher intelligence make distinction, not that there's any spiritual difference between souls, but they make distinction in the way they treat others, because they can understand that some people are manifesting more Krishna consciousness and are closer to Krishna than others. And so it's described that that's actually a higher level of consciousness. And then it's also described that those who do know how to discriminate but don't, it's actually sinful. That's coming from one of our acharyas. It's in the Bhakti Ratnakara. So it's very important to learn that discrimination. And that'll allow you to lead, because you'll understand where is this person at. And we're personalists. So personalist means that you don't just hit a problem with Shastra. Someone comes up to you, they're struggling, and you just, quote some shlokas and send them on their way. Actually, it requires a lot of balance. We see that in Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada's the most expert leader of all. Srila Prabhupada was extremely heavy on some disciples who he understood could take it, extremely compassionate and loving to other disciples. He was able to provide exactly what every disciple needed, and in that way nourish their Krishna consciousness. I know sometimes if someone comes up with me with a serious problem, I know that it's not going to be beneficial for me to preach to them at this moment. So the better thing to do is just show them compassion. And you see that in Krishna also, that when Abhimanyu left the world after he was killed in the battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna showed so much compassion to Arjuna as a loving friend. But previously to that, he was speaking Bhagavad Gita as the instructing guru. So you see that there is discrimination is necessary. And when you do have that compassion and you do have that, you just be there for someone, then they open up and you can preach to them. But if you just kind of robotically, you're not your body, Prabhu, get over it, then you're not going to make any friends. So you have to learn how to understand people and ultimately empower them. So we need these examples of devotees like Maharaj Prithu, so that we can also become leaders and inspire those that are working under us. I think Mother Tsunami is a great example of a wonderful leader who I feel inspired to serve here. We were just, me and Parameshwar were talking, and I was saying, I'm so happy in Tucson. I'm here. I love Mother Tsunami, the temple president. And he was saying, isn't that? He's like, when I came here, I just thought, I just want to help these people. Mm-hmm. We're inspired by example, and also, by Krishna consciousness, by the Krishna consciousness of those we serve under, and understanding how, dealing with all these people in such a way that they're all pleased is an extraordinary quality. And there's 26 qualities of a devotee, and we don't develop those qualities individually. We develop them by increasing our devotion. So we have to increase our devotion, increase our prayer, our chanting. In that way, Krishna will empower us to perform our service, whatever that service may be, whether we're, a Sudra or a Kshatriya, whatever that service may be. And a Vaishnava could do all those services. But if we chant Hare Krishna, I know preaching and distributing books, but especially giving classes, it's so much dependent on your ability to ask Krishna and to receive grace from Krishna and to perform that service. So all of these good qualities, all of these leadership abilities are developed by sincere devotion. And that good behavior, that expert behavior, that expert understanding of how to deal with others is a result of that. And another important point, last point I'll make, and we'll do questions, is that Maharaj Pritha was asking the sages. He was humble before the sages. Although he was the leader, although he was the king, he was asking the sages. He was asking them. So although we may be so qualified, still we ask our seniors out of respect. That's also showing an example, getting blessings by approaching seniors. There's so much there than just doing it. So he was approaching the seniors, approaching the Brahmins and the sages. And in that way, he's able to be elevated. By following their instructions, we can be elevated in our leadership abilities. We can be elevated in our leadership abilities. That's a result of our serious practice of devotional service. Not that we just say, I mean, I've seen that before in certain, not in this temple, but in other places where someone's like, oh, like, I'm going to lead you in Krishna consciousness, but then they're not chanting their rounds, they're not doing any, they're breaking regulated principles, and the result is that they're just bullies. So, are there any questions or comments, Nick Prabhu?
Thank you. Just had a couple of quick comments if I could. I was thinking about how Radhanath Swami says that when you're beginning, you're like a little bird flapping your wings really hard, and then the more you advance, you become like the soaring bird, and you can see that in the advanced devotees, they almost float, and it's like,
Yeah,
you get a little bit of that, and you're like, yeah, that's so nice. I want to try to get there someday. I was also thinking about the difference between Yudhisthira Maharaj and Duryodhana. They're different like ways of ruling. I was thinking how they wanted to serve Yudhisthira no matter what. I'm at the end of the Mahabharata, and let's see, Drona Acharya has just been killed. So Ashvatthama is furious, his son, and he releases the Lord Narayan weapon, which is pretty much like the Brahmastra, but it's just raining down fire on the whole battlefield. And so when that's happening, Arjuna is still fighting him, even though Krishna is telling him he shouldn't be. And the more they fight, the more power the weapon has. And finally, Krishna tells everyone to pay dandavats because you can't beat that weapon. The only thing you can do is surrender. But while that's happening, Bhima is he's running into the battle because he's just, he's so fired up and he loves King Yudhisthira so much. And they have to actually drag him out of there. Arjuna and Krishna have to drag him out of there. And then Ashvatthama, also Arjuna sends the Varuna weapon as water to help Bhima first. And then after that's happened, Ashvatthama sees that people have survived that weapon and he gets all distraught. He's like, that's my best weapon I have. He starts going away from the battlefield and he sees Vyasadeva, and Vyasadeva inspires him to do his dharma again and get back in there. And I was thinking if he had, pure love for Duryodhana, that he wouldn't have to like leave and come back. And then I also think of that with Bhishma, how he's not fighting to his full force. Drona's not fighting to his full force because they don't love Duryodhana the way that all the warriors love King Yudhisthira. That same way of respecting and just fighting full force.
absolutely. Thank you, Prabhu. That was a wonderful comment.
Jai.
Lavanya?
You're mentioning how actually a good leader always thinks himself servant. And I was hearing this, and I was listening to a talk yesterday about this hour. Well, anyway, it was a long talk, but anyway, this person was mentioning in the talk that there was this one temple community that this Grihasta couple, they decided to have a program in their house. And it got really successful. They were having a weekly program in their house. And in fact, it got so successful that over 100 people started coming. And the temple president actually got upset and got really mad at them and started criticizing them. You're doing wrong. And they really weren't doing anything wrong. They were like, oh, let's have a program. And it just got big. And so they were talking about, it's good, to say okay, oh yeah, leader, servant, we're all servants, we're all serving each other. But really, we have to actually play this out in practice. There can't be that envy there of other people, especially of other Vaishnavas when they become successful.
Yeah.
or when they have an idea for some seva, like there can be the tendency of, no, I have to control this, or I
Yeah.
have to be. So
I mean,
yeah,
certainly not this temple, but at other places we've seen that
Yeah.
we've had to hide certain home programs with highly advanced devotees so that the temple authorities do not understand that they're happening. Not at this temple, but at other temples,
Mhm.
because otherwise all those devotees would be put on that blacklist and never invited back to the temple. That is not Vaishnava leadership. That is opposite of Vaishnava leadership. Actually, I was thinking, I think too, like I kind of had some leadership position, and I think a lot of the time, like maybe you feel, sometimes I'll feel like, competitiveness or enviousness, whatever it may be. And I think to myself, no, my service is to elevate and to uplift. And so I always act the opposite, because actions speak louder than words with thoughts and emotions. Those are going to come. But if you know what it is you're supposed to do and you act that way and you really have that this is personal realization, you have that connection to your guru's mission. And I know my guru would want this, and I'm really just a messenger. I have no power of my own. I'm just his messenger, his servant. And the parampara's compassion will come through. And that way you elevate. So we're out of time. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Like, effects in people.